Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/DionsDailyDose.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's Dion's Daily Dose, and I have a very special episode lined up for you tonight. Tonight we are here with Heather Stevens. She's actually in studio with us. She is the Clerk of Court for La Porte County, essentially the top election officer in the county. And without further ado, there she is. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So you're the top dog as far as elections go.
That's what
right?
they tell me. I think it's a good thing I love elections.
Right.
That's a big part of my job.
It's a lot of work. A lot of people don't like from the outside. I learned when I ran for office a little bit about what all you guys do, but like the general public seems to think that you just, I don't know, really, you process some forms, and you're just kind of there. But there's a lot that goes into it, right?
Yeah. So we have a kind of a code book that we follow, and if you've ever seen that book, it's this thing.
Okay.
I mean, the election codes are just insane, and I was really hoping that, there was this is what you do step by step to run an election, and that doesn't seem to exist. So the state tries, they try to give reminders and stuff, but really it's you're reading and you're learning and you're just doing the absolute best that you can.
Right. So, and that's one of the things that I learned actually for the Secretary of State election was that there's no standard throughout the state for county election officers like you to learn like how things work, right?
I think the best thing that we have each other. I have 91 other clerks doing the very same thing that I'm doing, and over the past 3 years I've really gotten to know a lot of them, and they're all just like me. They want to do their best, and so we have a group text which is hilarious when that starts going nuts.
I imagine
at election time.
Group texts in general are either like vastly entertaining or extremely annoying. There doesn't seem to be a middle ground there, at least for me. It's like, oh my, shut up.
But it's great because, especially being new, when I was new, I was kind of the new guy, and so you were bashful and you didn't want to ask questions because you felt kind of dumb. And here I am 3 years later, and I will ask because I guarantee there's a handful of other clerks that don't know either. Right. So it's been a great resource.
Good. So I want to touch on the machines, right? That's the big thing. And I think it's really important because I'm a natural skeptic, doubter kind of person. I want evidence, right? Show me the evidence. So especially in 2020, without getting into specifics because the YouTube gods are watching, but there were some concerns. And there were particularly concerns with other companies that are not here in Indiana, but it's because here in Indiana, we use MicroVote, correct?
Yeah, MicroVote is probably the biggest vendor in Indiana. ES&S is another big vendor. And I think that there's a couple of other smaller ones, but the unspoken machines are not used in the state of Indiana. Okay. They're not used here.
And I think that's important for people to remember, because it's very easy to look at, oh my God, voting machines are horrible. And then you go in to vote and obviously there's all these machines. Now, like I said, I'm a natural skeptic. So especially in 2020, I'm looking at the fact that we have machines and I start looking into these things. And I think I do really believe that it's important for the viewer, especially those who aren't that familiar with voting machines and how they work. MicroVote is a completely separate company. They use completely separate technology. I'm pen and paper, give me my paper ballots. But the county doesn't set that. You can't just change it if you wanted to, right?
I could not.
Right. And I think that's important. Excuse me, I'm getting thirsty. Sorry. I usually got my little cup, but I forgot to fill it. So you'll have to deal with, they don't sponsor me. But if you'd like to, by all means, contact them. And so the reason I bring this up is because I've noticed there have been some comments on Facebook and other social media where people give, especially the poll workers, people that work in your office, a really hard time over the machines. You guys can't control that, correct? There's nothing you personally can do to suddenly swap it over, even if you wanted to.
Even
and I'm not putting you on the spot to, about your personal feelings in the matter. But even if the entire county came to you one day and said, we want paper ballots, it doesn't work that way because it's set by code downstate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we actually have had, and I'll start by election integrity is so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I truly want our voters in La Porte County, in Indiana, I'd love to see it nationwide, but I want them to feel like, number one, your vote does count. And
Yeah.
I hear so many times, well, my vote's not going to count anyway. I promise you, your vote is counted.
Right.
It is counted. When I first took office, that January, like I am brand new in there, and there's a program called VStop.
Okay.
And they wanted to come in and audit kind of our ballots. Yeah. And MicroVote was so kind because they told VStop, hey, she is brand new. Like, could you give her just a minute?
Right.
And they were nice enough. I think they came in like February or March. But basically, 2020 was a huge year for the absentee by mail ballots.
Yeah.
And we took all of those. We collected everything. We took them over to the county complex. We were in that room for 2 or 3 days. And what they did was they did an audit to make sure that our tabulators were tabulating the way that they should be.
Okay.
And I'm always all for anything like that, because if something's wrong, I want to know.
Right.
I want to know so that we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the state has now, I don't know if you've seen the box that is attached to the voting machines, and it's not on all of them, or it wasn't on all of them. Right. I'm told by this coming general election, we are to have one on every single machine.
Oh, okay.
And what that does is that allows the voter to verify who they are voting for. It stays within that box.
Right.
We know which box is with which machine. Your voter information is not on that piece of paper.
Right.
It just, I like to say our electronic poll books, those are connected to the internet.
Okay.
Those know who you are.
Okay.
They don't know how you're voting.
Right.
But that just keeps somebody from checking in at one location and then going to another and voting again there. Okay. That's why those need to be connected. So the voting machines are not connected to the internet.
Okay.
So the voting machine knows how you're voting, but doesn't know who you are.
Okay. Because it's just an individual.
Yes.
It's, essentially a counting system.
Yes.
Individual number, 234 voted this way.
Right.
Okay.
So I like to say they're like coworkers that just don't talk to each other.
Okay.
They work together, but they don't speak.
Right.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, no, so our voting machines absolutely are not connected to the internet.
Okay. That's important. I just so everybody's aware, I looked into it. MicroVote, I ran through it. I looked at them. There were, because if you guys are like me, you do your due diligence and you look this stuff up. There were a couple of lawsuits a number of years ago, but it, just so you know, it was other stuff. There was an employee who did something stupid, and then there were issues because they put something up. Basically, they counted wrong. It was the people's problem, not the machine's problem. They do not connect to the internet. I looked. Trust me, I looked because it matters to me. But go ahead.
The great thing now is when you check in on the electronic poll books, it issues a ticket that we keep.
Okay.
And that ticket has your name, it has your information on it.
Mm-hmm.
It has what precinct you belong to. And you'll notice on the side of one of the machines, we have an envelope there. We tuck all of those little tickets into that envelope.
Right.
Because our poll pads, you'll hear me say poll pad, you'll hear me say poll book, same thing.
Okay.
Those poll pads are keeping account of how many people have checked in on it.
Right.
Well, that's how many pieces of paper, that's how many tickets we should have. That's how many votes need to be on the machine.
Yeah. And just again, because, I work as a poll watcher, not this past election, but the one before. And they verify everything. I was there. They count all the slips to make sure it lines up with the number of votes. And then they double check a lot of stuff. You run a tight ship.
Yes.
And I did that because I was curious. One of the things that I do want to bring up, though, and it's related to the machines, there's basically a public demonstration period before every election where the machines are like, hey, telling the public, come in, check it out, learn how this works. But very few people actually come in. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. And it's such a great opportunity, not only for the public, but that's how we're making sure that those machines are correct.
Right.
That's how we're making sure that if you vote for John Smith,
mm-hmm.
John Smith is getting the credit for that vote.
Right.
So the more people that come in, the more help I have. So please attend the public test.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have some people that, and they do question the machines. And they question the whole process. And one of them, he actually came to the public test,
mm-hmm.
and I said, would you care to work on election day and see all of it?
Right.
And he took me up on it, which I thought was awesome. He turned out to be just fantastic, and I hope he comes back in the fall.
Good.
But I think it helped him to see that what we're doing is proper.
Yeah.
There's no hidden anything.
Yeah. And I will.
Yeah. For me, I don't care who wins or loses per se.
Right.
A successful election to me is everything running smoothly,
mm-hmm.
all of the numbers matching, because it didn't always used to match, and it used to drive me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we had issues before you took office. I distinctly remember, because you took office January of 2021.
I did.
So, post the 2020 election. And again, we had some issues before you took office, and those were rectified. The biggest issue we had after you took office was you guys not releasing the numbers until they were all counted. And there were a lot of people that were like, but accuracy is important.
So, and I think, so since I've been in office, we've moved to electronic poll books because I got that grant. We introduced the mobile voting unit. So all of this was during my first election.
Right.
So I know everybody thought something is wrong. What did she do? Every commissioner called me. Oh, God. Both party chairs called me repeatedly.
I remember.
All of the council members called me.
What's going on?
Everybody was the number.
Yelling at me. Right. And you're like, relax.
I was like, everything is fine.
Yeah.
It was just, there was an error in the counting in 2020. And I can tell you who caught it.
Yeah.
It was me.
Good job.
And I raised a little ruckus, so they weren't willing to release until everything was done.
Until everything was straight, right?
Until I counted it.
Yeah, which is good.
It is good.
Yeah.
So, and now we release.
Yeah.
If there is an error, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna be the first one to find it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna find it, before we release it,
right? But you'll find it.
I will find it. I look over everything.
Yeah, and I wanna make sure the viewers understand. I was extreme, and I'm still like I said, I'd rather it was a certain way, but we do what we have. That said, so I think the mobile voting unit is probably one of the greatest things. Seriously, if we're going to use electronics and we're going to use these machines, having the mobile voting van is awesome.
It is awesome. And that they got that grant before I came into office. What they didn't realize was without the electronic poll books, they couldn't have used it.
Right, because there's no way to verify it.
How would you check people in?
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, because you can't log all of those books.
No.
The physical, books.
No.
So this was before the electronic poll books you got in.
Those, I got the grant in 2021, and they actually arrived on my birthday.
Oh, really?
In 2022, and I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
Which also meant that I had not much time to learn how to use it.
Right, and then kick them in.
Yeah. Actually, the first time that the poll workers took them all out the night before the primary in 2022, we learned that they were completely empty.
Oh.
They had no voter information whatsoever.
Oh, my.
Oh. Oh, man. We worked so hard. I have the best team in the world. They stayed so late.
Yeah.
We called every inspector. We said, get that poll book out. We had to walk them through it. I will never again will that mistake be made. So
speaking of the poll books, right? There have been some that have said that like maybe they can fill the voter rolls with non-existent, because we've had issues with, like, for example, there are states that are filled with old or out of date voter information. Right.
Yes.
There are people on the rolls who should have been removed.
Yeah.
One of the concerns with the electronic poll books is altering the data that's in the poll book, essentially, and filling it with what would otherwise be ineligible voters.
So a few things.
Yeah.
So number one, we did not put your voter information online.
Okay.
It's been there.
Right.
It's been there for a very long time through the state.
The state
people
controls
just weren't
it,
aware.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Everything is on a secure network. And you better show me that signature.
Right.
So with the poll books being electronic, from my desk, I can see every signature.
Oh.
I can compare it to what's on the voter registration rolls.
Okay.
The program itself is phenomenal.
Okay. Good to know.
We use no ink.
No ink. Okay.
Yes, it's KNOWINK.
Okay.
And their
I've heard of
reputation
that,
is fantastic.
Yeah.
They're very easy to work with. When I called and said I sent out all of these electronic poll books that were totally empty, because what did I know?
Right.
He just said, "Oh my goodness, it's going to be a long night." But they were great, and they worked with me, and they made sure that we were good to go.
That's good.
So
that's really good.
To all those inspectors, thank you.
Right. So one of the things that I noticed, right, and this is just from a personal standpoint, that something that I noticed in the 2020 election specifically, because I ran for office in the primary and the general. Again, personal observation, it seemed a lot more chaotic in 2020 before you took office. It seemed a lot more chaotic. The poll workers seemed, I won't say rushed, but they didn't look particularly happy.
It's a long day.
Yeah, and I get that. But even like in 2022, when I went, like, the poll workers were jovial and happy, and I imagine part of that is probably the electronic poll books, because it does save a lot of time.
It does save a lot of time. Our poll workers they are just wonderful people.
They are.
Honestly.
Yeah.
It's so great. I went to a fish fry in Westville not too long ago, and there's two of our poll workers, and they're like, "Hey, come on, sit down." I mean, they were just so nice.
Right. They're awesome.
They're very, very good people.
Yeah.
And they have the same goal I do. Their goal is smooth, successful elections.
Right.
So we've also reduced the amount, because now we're a vote center county, which means you are not bound to vote at your precinct on election day. You can go to any vote center in La Porte County.
Right. Which there are some people who are like, no. But for me, it made it a lot more convenient, because while I'm out and about doing other stuff, in particular, like the mobile voting vans there, or, I happen to be passing by this polling place, it doesn't matter. You can go to that polling place. Yeah. Your vote is going to count there, just like it would have counted at your precinct prior to.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Michigan City was especially rough because somebody would come into one, one polling location but it might be their old precinct. Maybe
we ran into that
their
several times.
And then you're trying to send this poor person all the way across town.
Yep. Yeah.
And they've got 10 minutes left to vote.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Right before the polls close.
Come in and vote.
Oh my goodness.
Come in and vote.
Yeah.
Let's simplify it.
So speaking of poll workers, right? Because I think this is important too. You always need poll workers.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
It's funny to me, and not in a ha-ha way, is especially the people who are most critical or most verbal about, the issues and this, and why aren't we doing this, and why aren't we doing that? But yet they never seem to have the time to actually go and work the polls, when a lot of times you guys are very short-staffed.
Yeah, we can't. It's not as bad now, because now with the vote centers, rather than needing 92 teams of 5, we need 38 teams of 5. That's
a huge difference. Oh my goodness.
And it's a huge cost savings.
Yeah, and that's important too, because we, the taxpayer, are the ones that, that pay for all this stuff.
Yeah.
So having, because you got to pay poll workers, people don't do this because, they the kindness of their heart, they want to get paid.
Well, and we upped their pay because we reduced the number of poll workers that we needed.
Okay.
I mean, now you're not making under $200 for the day.
Oh, nice.
Which I think that's great.
Right.
Again,
because it's a long day. Yeah.
And
it's no joke.
We do require that they attend a training. Because
which makes sense.
It does, because there was so much new equipment. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't know what to do if I went in to work the polls unless I was taught.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it, I mean, the phones are just crazy ringing on election morning. At least in the past they have. This year was actually better.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that is not because of my training.
Right.
That is because of the poll workers.
Right.
We do have kind of a boom, boom, boom list. Like we can say, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And to help them out, just to help them get rolling. Everybody gets very nervous about it. We had a brand new inspector this year. He'd never done it before. So the decision was, because I live down in South County, I was going to stay down there, and I was going to go and help them get set up and run their zero tapes.
Right.
And so I did that, and I got into the courthouse at like 5:30.
Nice.
And the phones were not ringing, and I was like, where are the phone calls?
Yeah.
Are the phones not working? Like,
right. Is everything okay? What's going on? Right.
So,
as opposed to previously when they were ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
Right.
We also, my elections deputy, she sent out a survey.
Okay.
After the primary, and just wanted to know, like, how did it go out there? What went well? Where do we need to improve?
Right.
Do you want to work again?
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that said no. One lady said like her mom was having a birthday party on election day, so she couldn't work.
So she couldn't, but
they were so great. They had a great time together.
That's awesome.
And this is how you build it.
Yeah. And for those I guess not familiar with the process, right? The poll workers and the way that this kind of goes, right? You have your I'm just going to put it in your court. The teams of 5 that you're talking about.
Yes.
How were they comprised?
So right now, because of the votes cast for Secretary of State in 2022, the inspectors are Republican, and then we have a Democrat judge who we call our lead judge.
Okay.
And then we have a Republican judge, a Democrat clerk, and a Republican clerk.
Okay.
So the party chairs, it's the two parties. They have the first opportunity to appoint people to work the polls.
Okay.
And then there's a deadline. And once they reach that deadline, it's out of their hands.
Okay.
And then we take over, we fill it.
Okay. So basically, Democrat Party, Republican Party, they each send to your office, however many people they can find to work. And then once that deadline passes, then it's like, okay, we got to fill the rest however we can do so.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we still try to make sure that we have a good balance at the polls.
Okay. One of each major party, right? Okay.
Yeah. So,
all right. But ultimately, like, you have inspectors that are both, right?
It can happen. It did happen this year. We had a lady who had worked all through early voting. She knew what she was doing.
Okay.
And she was a Democrat. We didn't have a Republican inspector for that location. And I'm like, do you want to just do this?
Right.
She was like, yeah.
Okay.
So that's fine.
All right. Yeah. And I understand there are people out there, because I was one of them, that have, very serious concerns about, especially in other states, some of the things that are going on. And that's why, one of the reasons why I'm really glad you decided to come on, so that we can kind of dispel some myths and tackle that, because going into 2024 here in the general election, especially based on the things that are going on right now on the national level, I think it's going to come up again. And so I want people in LaPorte County especially to understand that I was very vehemently against mail-in and all of this and all of that. But because I've spent a lot of time talking to you and a lot of time looking stuff up, if we got to have machines, MicroVote is the best of the bunch, in my opinion. So, and more importantly, you run a tight ship, and I believe in your integrity, and I believe in the integrity of LaPorte County elections.
We have a great election board.
Yeah,
you
really do. And the new,
they are by the book.
Yeah,
which is wonderful.
The new, the new guy, the new president, right, of the board. He ain't messing around. He's hardcore, which I like, because so often in the past we've seen candidates who aren't doing the right thing, and they're just whatever, allowed to, whether it's never brought up or allowed to get away with it with not much of a fine. But he's not playing around. But to his credit, and to the credit to the rest of the election board, they let everybody know well in advance, look, we're cracking down. We want to make sure that you guys are doing what you're supposed to do. And so, it shouldn't have been a big surprise.
There are statutes for reasons.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring the statute with me.
Yeah.
But there is a statute that specifically states that if the county election board is not enforcing, we're not doing our job.
Oh, okay.
So
fair enough. Fair enough.
We are here to work.
Yeah, and I think you overall have done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
And I mean that. There have been a lot of issues in other states. And so it's natural here in Indiana to look at that machine and go, up.
I will say, Dion, from an election administrator's standpoint, I can't think of an easier way to cheat an election than with a paper ballot.
Okay. Interesting.
I truly,
okay.
At least with the machines,
Yeah.
You can verify.
Yeah.
With paper, you cannot.
Speaking of the machines and verify. So, and you talked about this before, but I want to make sure everybody understands. So the way that it was previously, I don't know, there was some kind of feedback or something, whatever.
I heard it.
Yeah, whatever. So before, we just had the machines, and there was no feedback, there was no visual cue, no record, physical, right? But now in the past couple of elections, there was one machine that had, essentially, it was like a paper printout that was on the machine, and you could see it. So when it printed out, you could look at your ballot, the way that you voted, and you could look at the paper and verify, yep, okay. But now they're all going to have that.
They're all going to have it. And It's
Okay.
actually called a voter verifiable paper audit trail.
Oh, okay.
And that way, if there's
It's a mouthful.
ever a question about MicroVote, we're just gonna start polling them,
Yeah,
and we'll start comparing.
that's awesome.
So Indiana, I believe in 2020, Indiana was ranked number 12 for election security,
Okay.
and that tells me we're on the right track.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of Indiana and election security and all of that, in 2022, we had a new Secretary of State elected, Diego Morales, and he ran on a campaign of fixing Indiana's elections and essentially making them more secure, the machines, the this, the that, right? So first of all, have there been any changes specifically, I guess, to the system, other than the paper, I guess the audit system, but that was already in effect, right?
That was already in effect.
Yeah.
Actually, we had them in 2020. They weren't sent out,
Okay.
and I understand why. They're a pain in the butt. They're
Yeah.
heavy. They're awkward.
Because it's a built-in printer on it.
And once they jam up, the machine won't work without it. So they're a pain.
Yeah.
But they're a good pain.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
but
I was very happy about those.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, I don't know of any other changes yet.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean he's not working on something.
Right. And I want to be very, very clear.
Yeah.
I don't know the day-to-day operations that he's doing there. But one of the things that I did notice is he's been going around to counties, I guess, handing them, I guess, I don't know if it's grant money or other money that he's been, but you see his smiling face with the checks that he's given all these counties. Was La Porte County one of the recipients of that?
No.
Okay. Why didn't we get money?
Because I didn't apply for the grant.
Oh, so it was a grant.
Yes, this was a grant that needed to be applied for, and it was very specific.
Okay.
Mind you, this was last year.
Okay.
During this time, now we had just gotten a grant for our electronic poll books. We had just gotten a different grant for the mobile voting unit. So here I'm trying to move the county to vote centers.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, number one, there was nothing at that time that we could have put the money toward that would have qualified.
Okay.
Number two, when it comes to elections, if you spread yourself too thin, you will make horrible errors.
I agree with that.
So I opted to be grateful for what we had. There are grants all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually opted to say, let's focus on this. Let's get this right, and we'll go for the next grant.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And like a lot of the grants that I've seen tend to come with a variety of strings attached, depending on the grant and what it's for. And just to put kind of everybody's mind at ease here, there were people who were concerned about the potential strings for like the mobile voting unit or the poll books is there anything we should worry about as far as that goes?
No, it took me a very long time to get a copy of the grant application for the mobile voting unit.
Okay.
But I have it.
Okay. Excellent.
I do have that.
All right.
And that mobile voting unit is for the La Porte County Election Board.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah, there were some how can I put this diplomatically? There were some questions about who was actually in charge of that mobile voting unit.
I was going to fight to the death for that thing.
You were on point. I mean, you were like, nope, listen up.
I try to stay in my lane. I try to stay out of trouble. I just try to focus on my job.
But that's your lane.
But they got in my lane.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, there were some questions by various administrators and various elected officials that tried to say, well, we're going to take the mobile voting unit because blah, blah, blah. And they can't. It's not theirs.
I hope I answered their questions.
Yeah, you did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of that. Okay, so we're coming into 2024 general election, right?
Yes.
And you're up for re-election.
I am.
Okay, so I know why I think you should be re-elected. And for everybody watching, I'll go into detail on that because I do believe Heather Stevens should be re-elected.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
Yeah. Why do you think you should be re-elected?
I'll tell you, we have done so much, and I've actually been putting together a list that I forgot at my house of all of the things that we've done since I've taken office. And it's not just election related. We have cleaned that clerk's office. We've organized, we've scanned, we hired a team of scanners because I have this perpetuation fund for the preservation of documents.
Right.
The county council can't touch it. and we were sitting on a lot of money. So let's use that and let's get this cleaned up. We have gone as paperless as a clerk's office can be paperless. I took all of the campaign finance reports, we organized them, we got those online, which also gave us the ability to start maintaining, to start checking them, to, we have just done so much. We've cross-trained the staff. We had some people who once I was coming in, one, she could have retired 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And once she saw me coming in, she knew that there were going to be changes, and she said, "I'm out."
Yeah.
And I love her to pieces, but I get it.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes change.
No.
My least favorite saying is, "But that's the way it's always been."
Oh my God.
And
you're not the first person to mention that, especially when it comes to, elected officials and these various boards and all this. There's very much like, I guess, the desire to hold on to some, because we always did it this way. But what if the way you always did it was wrong?
Well, that's what I learned. A lot of what we had always been doing wasn't right.
Correct. Right.
And there was a whole issue because I did something the way it's always been, and I was wrong.
Right.
So I had to backpedal. We had to have a meeting. We had to get it corrected, and it was of no fault of the candidate. It was me. Yeah,
it happens.
And I am big on accountability. So when you're wrong, you own it.
I was just about to say there are so few elected officials these days that will say, I did this and I made a mistake, and then, we fixed it. Why is that so hard for people? I mean, it seems to be really difficult for people to admit when they're wrong. So I'm glad that
I have no problem with
it. It's unfortunately, we just don't have enough of those that are willing to step up and say, I did this, I was wrong,
Yeah.
So
I won't admit that to my husband, but I will admit it to everybody else.
Right. Well, there's a certain mystique there. You can't. They want to start marketing on the calendar and all of that. So yeah, unfortunately, that's a great. My camera froze again, and it's a perfect little screenshot. Luckily, audio is still working, so it'll catch up eventually. And if it doesn't, oh well. There are worse screenshots on the internet out there definitely. Of me. So, it is what it is. But
yeah, no, I truly, we have just built this amazing team. And every single day that clerk's office, and I don't have one clerk's office.
Okay.
When I say clerk's office, I'm talking about the whole, everybody.
Okay.
I actually have 3.
So you got to
one in
maintain
Michigan City
3
and 2
offices.
in La Porte. Yeah.
2 in La Porte and 1 in Michigan City. Okay, so I know the one's at the courthouse in La Porte.
Mm-hmm.
The one in Michigan City is at the courthouse as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, where's the third one at?
It's in La Porte, but it's on the 2nd floor. So there is a clerk's office for the circuit court.
Okay.
There's a clerk's office for Superior 1 and 2, Superior 3, Superior 4.
Yeah.
So it keeps us busy, but the best part is just getting the right fit for the rest of your team.
Yeah.
You have to have amazing first deputies because you can't be everywhere. You have to.
Oh yeah.
You have to train and you have to trust, and
that's
blessed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was going to say the team there is phenomenal, and a special shout out. At least one of the individuals that I've noticed is Taylor. She's, in my opinion, done an absolutely phenomenal job at keeping people informed, right? And she does other things really well as
She's
in
great.
Addition. But
2 years ago, she didn't know anything about elections.
Really?
Yeah. Last year, I said, "Hey, I'm on the ballot next year, so you're going to do a lot of this. So let's go."
Let's go. Yeah, let's get with it.
She is just caught right on. She does a ton of reading, and she still maintains her normal responsibilities.
Wow.
During election time. I mean, if she gets slammed, the other girls jump in and they'll help her out.
Right.
But again, that's where the cross training comes in.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, it apparently looks like my camera is never going to catch up. So I guess this is just how you guys get to see me for the rest of the time.
It's just your face now.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. And like I said, there's way worse screenshots out there, way worse screen grabs. So So with everything that's going on right nationally,
Yes.
what are your concerns with the general election?
I have a lot of concerns.
Okay.
You know, if anybody's going to misbehave, this is going to be the time that they're going to do it.
Right. And that, unfortunately, that's just the way that it is.
That's the way that it is. But I have been preparing for this coming election since the minute I took office.
Okay.
This is the big one.
Mm-hmm.
My chief deputy thought I was completely insane today when we realized we're running pretty low on the I voted stickers, and I said order 50,000. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, for real.
Yeah,
for real.
I think you're right. I think we're going to see a massive turnout. I hope. I really do. I hope so. Regardless of who you vote for.
Yeah.
I have my preference, obviously, just like you do. But the important thing is I want people to get out there and make their voice heard. Regardless of who you're for or what you decide to vote, the way you decide to vote, whatever party affiliation you may or may not have, please, for the love of God, get out there and vote.
I said in 2020 when I was campaigning the first time that I was going to make it that if you were not voting in this county, it's going to be because you don't want to.
Right. Not because you can't.
I have done that. I've done my job.
Yeah.
So you guys got to get out there and do your job.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We spend a lot of money on elections.
Yes. Yeah,
so,
we do.
To have a 14% turnout for the municipal election.
Yeah.
We spend so much money.
It's heartbreaking. It
is.
really, really is. And this is why, I guess, especially here, right? I understand the concerns in other states. I completely get it. We can't get too deep into it. And it doesn't matter because that's there. But here, really, legitimately, people, a few votes can swing an election, and has. Like some, this most recent election, a handful of votes have decided
if that happens
key
all the
positions.
time.
Yeah, it really matters, especially when you have a small turnout. I know of a precinct spot that was lost by 3 votes.
Yeah.
3. That's the difference. As a matter of fact, the treasurer at the convention, treasurer Daniel Elliott.
Yeah.
Was elected by 3 votes.
By 3 votes.
3 votes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think this convention is going to be interesting as well.
Yeah.
Because the attorney general and lieutenant governor are the ones that are on the ballot this year, right? Are there any others? I think that's it, right? I think it's just those 2.
See, all this stuff, this is how I ended up obsessed with elections.
Yeah, I get it. I understand.
I always want to go see any type of process. If there's a caucus somewhere, I'm like, I want to go watch.
Right?
The town conventions in 2023, I was like, please just let me come watch.
Yeah.
Like, I won't say anything.
I just sit there and just
observe. I just want to see it.
Yeah.
And they let me, and it was so cool.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, and a lot of people, don't really, I won't say don't understand, but don't really think about it. When it comes to elections and all the things that are involved and all the various facets of it. It's simply, okay, we go down, we vote, and, you guys count it, and then what's it? But there's a lot that goes into it.
There's a whole lot.
Like, not just time, but energy and pre-planning, because my wife, Liz, she worked at the polls in the primary election that just passed.
Yeah.
And she had to get up stupid o'clock in the morning and go and you got to unlock the door and zero out the machines, get them ready, blah 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 blah. And it's a lot. She was telling me about it. I was like, yeah, they better you than me, because
so Dion's gonna work with her in the fall.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's a cool thing. I think it's a cool thing for everybody to experience. And
I do too.
We've been offering this for the last few election cycles we've been utilizing a lot of our 16 and 17-year-olds. And I love having the high school students as poll workers.
Yeah.
It's a free day out of school.
Yep.
They get paid. They learn. They learn the process, and they learn how important it is to vote.
Yeah.
And I just don't see where that's not a win for everybody.
Right. It's a phenomenal thing. And I have to mention this because I think it's really important. If you are going to be 18 by general election time,
vote.
Get out there, register.
Get registered.
You can get registered and you can vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's something that we learned a couple of years ago when my son was turning 18. We discovered that, as long as he's 18, when the actual election gets here, you can go register. You don't need to be, put it this way, you don't need to be 18 before you register.
No,
as long as you can vote in that upcoming election.
Yep.
So by all means. And I love to see young people get involved.
That's the best.
It really is. Even though, they tend to lean left, at least they used to. I'll say this, at least for me, I'm witnessing a huge pendulum swing back to more conservative younger people.
Are you?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I just had a guy on the show. Actually, he's 15 years old, and he's doing a podcast. He does a political commentary, a blog. He's interviewed Rodney Pohl, state senator Rodney Pohl. He's interviewed the mayor of Valparaiso. He's 15.
That's cool.
It's amazing. And he's, conservative, got an American flag hanging behind him, and I'm like, and I talked to him at length about, Gen Z and the way that, they're kind of leaning. And he agreed that the majority of his, his classmates and his friends lean conservative because of that huge, certain things have been forced and pushed on people and they're tired of it. And so the natural, I guess, snap back to that is to kind of, go the other way.
Yeah. Buck the other way.
Yeah. Buck the trend. As a matter of fact, he said, I'm trying to think of his exact words, but essentially being conservative is being a rebel now. And I was like, he's not wrong, because you've got, the media basically telling you if you're conservative, you're evil. So that's part of, it's, like you said, it's part of growing up, wanting to buck the trend. And according to mainstream media, everybody's progressive. So you kind of got to go the opposite way.
I will say, in my position, it is very important that I'm able to work with both parties.
Right. That is critical.
Because elections are so important. And it doesn't matter. It should never matter what party an election administrator is. Because that party is out the window.
Right.
You are there to do a job.
It shouldn't matter, but I've seen it matter. I think you do a phenomenal job. I've paid very close attention, especially when it comes to the election board and just administrating the election, right? I think you do a phenomenal job of presenting a nonpartisan, approach. Oh, yay, my camera came back. a nonpartisan election basis, right? Because a lot of these, and I don't say bipartisan, because there's more than two parties, even though the two main parties get talked about all the time, although my personal opinion, the Libertarian Party shot itself in the foot, but that's a whole other show. But, and it isn't just me going, yay, you're awesome. But in that respect, I think you do a phenomenal job at presenting a nonpartisan approach to things and showing that.
I think for us, it's going to sound so ridiculous, but elections are not political to us.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
They're elections, and there's a way that they're supposed to be done.
Right.
Per the state.
Yep.
And it's our job. I am not a perfect elections administrator.
Yeah.
I do make errors, and
Perfection's
thank
unfair.
God I have a great team around me.
Right.
You know, because we do discuss things, and
Right.
if I make a mistake, I make a mistake.
It happens.
9 times out of 10, we're going to be able to fix it.
Yeah.
But nobody says, "Oh, well, you made that mistake to sway one way or the other." Come on.
Right.
We just really just do our absolute best.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I've seen, at least with my interaction with the various, because I went to multiple polling locations and talked to the people there at length. And regardless of party, everybody was very nice. Everybody was very welcoming. Everybody was very, and there were times, as a matter of fact, that I wasn't sure which one, like the two individuals there, I didn't know which one was the Republican and which one was the Democrat, because they were, they were both extremely nice to me. And
that's the goal.
And yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah. So what sort of, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Do you believe that there are going to be, I know there's going to be, at least we hope there's going to be a huge turnout. I anticipate definitely a larger than normal turnout.
I want to see 70%.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Wouldn't it be great?
That would be phenomenal.
When I said it 4 years ago, they looked at me like I was crazy until we got 62.62%.
Right.
So I think we can do it.
Oh, we can do it. So what do you think? Do you anticipate, other than a large turnout, do you anticipate serious issues?
I am going to plan for serious issues.
Good. Okay.
I have to.
Right.
I mean, never could I have planned for the storm that came through Michigan City,
right,
Michiana Shores, and Long Beach on primary election day.
Yeah.
I stood watching a radar with my stomach doing flips.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that was intense too.
I mean, my first concern was there are people up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've got people up there.
Right.
And then what if the power goes out, but everything else is fine?
Yeah.
Well, we were prepared for that. So
that was actually my next question, is what happens if, there's a power loss at a location? You guys
we have a plan.
You plan for that.
Yes.
See,
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we have a plan for just about anything that could possibly come up.
Okay.
But you're still going to worry.
Oh, of course.
I don't think I
your
sleep
job.
for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before an election.
Right.
You just can't. Your mind is going insane, and you just can't shut it off. So you'll notice after the election,
yeah,
you may not see me for a few days.
I was actually going to say most of the people involved that I've talked to, and especially, those I pay attention to, like you and others that are involved with the elections, you don't see them for like at least a day or two, sometimes multiple days after, because y'all got to sleep. It's a lot.
I always take off the day after an election. I'm available if I'm needed.
Yeah, if there's an emergency or something, right?
Then after we certify, I might take a little break.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up certification. So the election happens, right?
Yes.
And then any potential issues, like, for example, a few years ago, we had a glitch where a machine was counted twice in the total. That was before you took office. But these glitches and issues are ironed out. And then what happens with the certification process? Does the election board meet and go, yep, everything looks good?
That's exactly what we
okay.
do. Yes. and then there's a ton of forms that I have to submit online to the state. And I keep a paper copy. I have copies of absolutely everything that I give to the state, so that there will never be an issue. Okay.
All right. Phenomenal. And just going back to the machines, because I want to make sure to cover this.
Yeah.
So when you first took office, how I guess in depth did you go when you were learning about the MicroVote machines and how they're set up and
Not
all
very.
of that? Okay.
Not very. But the interesting thing is that the state of Indiana, there is something called a SEATS program.
Okay.
And I cannot tell you what it stands for.
Okay.
But basically, and I have not taken part in this yet because again, I was focused on if we're moving to vote centers, we're going to do it right.
Right.
But come next year, knock on wood.
Right.
I am planning to be part of this seats program, and that's where I will learn all of the ins and outs of that machine.
Okay.
It's all election related, and it's just going to make me a better elections administrator.
Okay. So is it like a conference that you go to that you
It's all year long.
Oh, okay.
So it's a commitment. I want to say it's like 16 or 18 months.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't just leave the clerk's
Yeah, I was going to
office
say, okay.
on their own, but yeah, I think they meet monthly.
Oh, okay.
And
So-
just learn and learn and learn. And there's all this homework to
Right.
it. And I'm happy to spend my own time to
Yeah.
learn. I'll learn everything.
Fair.
I'm happy to do it. So that's something that has definitely piqued my interest.
Okay. Well, I hope so, because one of the issues, especially with machines and around the country, but also here in Indiana, when I was learning about the machines and looking them up, there's no standardized training. It's really up to the clerk, your position, to determine, to kind of get into it and go, okay, I know how this works, trust it or don't, or whatever. So I'm glad there's something like that's being offered.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really, really important.
I think it's very important. And, right now I can verify through signatures, through counts, through things like that.
Right.
But to be even more knowledgeable
Yeah.
is always.
Well, because they work a little different. Like I used to be, let me be 100%. I used to be extremely knowledgeable when it came to computers. Like I build them, I work on them, etc.
Yeah.
Right. These are a different kind of computer. And just because you know how to work a PC or even build a PC, these are very specialized and very different. It's like a POS system when you go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
That's very different than a regular PC, even though when it first boots up, it may look the same. It's a different operating system. It's different, all kinds of stuff. So learning in depth about it is a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
I think it'll
Absolutely.
benefit you. And then by proxy, everybody who works under you.
That's right.
Because you like to share the knowledge, share the
love
wealth.
to share it.
Right.
Well, and obviously the goal is to leave the clerk's office and our elections in better shape than I found them.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm planning
And I
for
think-
whenever I leave,
Yeah.
that our elections will continue
Yeah.
to be successful and secure and safe elections.
I believe so. And one of the things that I really appreciate about you as clerk is, you take accountability, but the transparency that you've had with the office and letting people know about the poll books, about the mobile voting, about all of the things that are coming up, and you get,
Yes.
that's a big deal.
And do you guys know that we live stream on election night? We live stream the count because we want everybody to see the process.
That's so cool.
Because we're not hiding anything.
Right.
And so this was implemented in 2022, my first election.
Yeah.
I went to our IT director and I said, "Is it possible?" She was like, "Oh yeah." And we've done it every election since.
That is so
We don't
awesome.
have sound because
Wow.
language.
Yeah. Well, you don't really need sound as long as you can see what's going on. So we don't have to worry about in La Porte County, big pieces of wood being put up in front of the camera or the windows where you guys are counting.
The blinds open.
Right.
We live stream, and the courthouse is unlocked. We will not let you stand right at the. I changed the way that everything is returned at the end of the night, and it seems to flow much better. We get everybody in and out much quicker. So I always ask everybody to stay out of their way, so you can't be right up at the window where we're counting. But we actually have an area that we had on the other side.
Yeah.
And we even, at one point, we even put a TV up. I think that was in 22,
Okay.
So that they could watch the live stream.
So that people can sit there and actually
Yes.
actively watch
Yes.
while you guys are doing your job.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they can hear everything going on, and they can,
That's what I mean. Like, transparency is, I would say, the biggest issue that we've run into as far as elections in the past, not just here, but, overall. And it's one of the great concerns that a lot of people have, is seeing things like we saw where, windows are covered and counting continues. That doesn't happen here because Heather Stevens is the clerk.
I can't imagine doing that.
Yeah.
You are going to raise alarm and raise questions, and your voters aren't going to trust the process.
And that's even if you're not doing anything wrong,
Yep.
It looks like you are, and then
Yeah.
it calls everything into question. And
Yes.
yeah. So it's truly been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything that you want to tell the voters out there in La Porte County specifically?
School board filing is going on right now.
Oh, that reminds me. I want to show you guys the election calendar
Yep.
before we get.
Yep.
Yeah,
And if you
yeah.
want a copy, you can call the clerk's office and we'll email it to you. 219-325-5573. Ask for Taylor. She'll help you.
Okay. The number again, 219.
325-5573.
Okay. And that's the clerk's office.
Mhm.
So here's the 2024 Indiana election calendar. And I got so wrapped up in, talking to you. I actually wanted to show this earlier, but we are here. Let's see, where did we go? All right. So May 7th was the primary, and then it opened again for voter registration.
Yep.
The 21st. So you can now register for the primary again,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. Get registered so that you can vote in this general election.
Yes.
It's a
Or
big
excuse me, for
election.
the general. Yeah, not the primary. Too late for the primary. You missed it. Sorry. And then, so Thursday, June 20th is the deadline for school board.
Yes, and there's a petition that needs to be filed with voter registration, and then once that has been checked, then you file.
Okay, so the process to run for school board, there's a petition that you have to get.
Yep, there's a petition, and again, give us a call at the office. We'll help you out.
Okay, and please, seriously, people, run.
Yes.
Run for office.
No.
I extol this all the time because I truly mean it. We're not going to get good people in office unless you get out there and run for it. And yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it sucks running for office. I know. But we here at the show are more than happy to walk you through it. We've done videos in the past on how to do it. And I got no problem doing it again.
Yeah.
But it's truly important because, and arguably the primary is more important, but regardless, especially for school board, there's not really a primary for that, right?
Not, right. But I can't
file.
think of, you come in and you file, that deadline is noon on that day.
Yeah. Noon.
I can't think of.
Not 12:50, Liz. No.
I honestly can't think of anything more important than the education of our kids.
Right. And especially with look, guys, regardless of which end of the political spectrum you sit, we can all agree that our schools could be better.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever your particular leaning is, whatever your vision of better is, get out there and run for school board so that you can implement it, because that's where everything gets decided. Yeah, the teachers actually, implement all the stuff, but the school board is who sets the policies for La Porte or Michigan City or, Rolling Prairie, whatever. Get out there and run for it.
Yes.
Seriously, please, please. I can't. Anyway, but it's critically important that we get good quality candidates on the ballot for not just school board. It's too late for other stuff.
It is.
At least as far as normal means, but there's what am I thinking? There's caucuses coming up to fill some slots that have been left open.
Yep.
Expect more people to be added to the ballot. But I cannot stress enough how important school board is. If you guys have been paying attention to what's going on across the country, luckily here in Indiana, it's not quite as bad, but it won't stay that way if you don't get out there and run.
Yeah, and it's nonpartisan. You're not declaring which party you're.
Yeah, you don't need to have voted in 2 primary elections the way that it is for normal, because you're not declaring your party. Even though these days it's kind of obvious, just pay attention to their social media, but just saying. But I say that, not her. Look, this calendar is available, and it has all the important dates on it, what has to be done, when filings are due, and all of that stuff is on this calendar. It's trifold, which is why it's weird. When I first pulled it up, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. It's a trifold, so that's why. But it's available from the clerk's office.
It is, and I think it's available.
And it's available online as well. Yeah.
The Secretary of State's office. So this is the one that they do up for all the candidates and for the public.
Mm-hmm.
The one that they do for the election administrators is a book.
Oh,
it's not.
Yeah, it's not some little flimsy.
It's not this.
Right. It's a little bitty trifold thing. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it makes it easier. It really does. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again. Seriously, thank you very much for being here. Where can people, because you're on the ballot.
I am.
Where can people learn more about you?
It's Heather Stevens for La Porte County Clerk on Facebook.
Okay.
I don't really use it a lot. I'm busy working.
Right. Yeah, you're not. I haven't seen you like some people are. Social media.
To do better. I'll do better.
Okay, just
so that people know who I am and what I'm doing. And
right. Just kind of pay attention
on things.
Right.
Or watch the commissioner meetings, watch the election board meetings, watch the council meetings.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I really haven't. I don't know. I don't really leave much left.
Right.
You kind of know who I am.
Yeah. I get it.
Once you watch them.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. If you guys aren't watching your local elections, your local elected officials in particular, you're missing out, because I'm going to tell you, it's entertaining. It's entertaining, not necessarily in a positive way sometimes, but it's definitely entertaining. But more importantly, you as a department head, you have to present your reports to the commissioners. You sit on the election board. Yes. So these are things that people can pay attention to and see how professional you are and the phenomenal job that you've done.
Thank you. I'm always out and about. Come talk to me.
Yeah.
Come talk to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. She's more than happy to, to talk to you out in public. So anytime. There you go. Thank you. Thanks. We appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Heather Stevens. She is the current La Porte County Clerk, which means she's the top election official in La Porte County. And in my opinion, she's done a phenomenal job. It's not her fault that I didn't win. It just isn't, despite what my wife keeps telling me. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Look, I do that. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, on Wednesday mornings, we got coffee break with Dion and Jim. We got face-to-face with Dion and Sean. And those are usually most nights at 7 p.m. Some are pre-recorded, some are live. I believe tomorrow we're going to do a live at 7. I'm not entirely sure what subject, because we got a lot of stuff to cover. There's so much going on. But that's what we're here for, to keep you guys informed. Once again, Heather Stevens for La Porte County Clerk. Check her out on Facebook and pay attention to your local meetings. It matters. And get out there and vote. And for the love of God, will some conservatives run for school board? For Christ's sake. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you spending your time with me. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. And I hope you have.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Sean Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.